Gilbert,
Tibor, Ross,
Anita, Saroja, Linda, Sheila,
Tony,
Tass,
Adrian,
Chris,
Lockie, Michael, Conrad, Holly,
Jacinta, Solana,
David,
Jane,
Helen,
Laura,
Julia, Maureen.
Hey man,
Jason,
Frank, Jess,
and Mitra.
Mitra.
And then we got Sailor Bob.
Wonderful.
What else are you going to take off?
Everything.
Oh, well, you've all been here before, you all know what it's about. And what they call it in a lot of the different scripts and texts pointing to it. The Taoists will say the way that can be spoken about is not the way. And it tells in Anything Ming, the great way is not difficult. And so that's all we ever talk about, the way, or the great way, or this or that. And so we're only pointing to it with words, concepts. And the pointer is not it. Just like the map is not the territory. The description is not the described. But it gives you an idea of where to look, what to look for. And they call it Advaita in Hinduism. Advaita meaning non-duality. Try to describe that non-duality by saying it's one without a second, not two. It is the only, the everything and the no thing. It is that. And we all know words like that, because as they say, that's the chair, that's the carpet, that's the tree, that's the flower. It's all that. But what have we done to that? We've learnt more words and put the words on tree, flower, carpet, chair. And discriminating it with the words, which are not the real, not the thing. And that's what most of us do. We try to grasp it with a concept, with a word. And some of these words are very direct, seemingly direct pointers to it. And we still think, well, we can get it with the word. But when you look into the word, is the word the thing? Try and drink the word water. Try and swim in it, drown in it, wash in it. The word fire, does it burn your mouth? Can you cook with it? The word me, is that what you really are? When you investigate, you'll see it's just another label we put on it. But what does it represent? Is there any one of you here who is not present right now? You're not outside or away from here, you're right here, right now, present. And are you unaware right now? And you know, no, I'm not unaware, you know that for certain. I'm not unconscious. I am aware. So, you're happy to be. Nobody'd want to be dead right now, would you? Of course not. So you are aware and knowing that and happy to be. That's the Satchitananda. And it is not the body, it is not the mind. But the body, mind, this conceptual image we have about ourselves, is the pattern, shape and form, and which it expresses. And they say it's the one essence, the absolute, the pure intelligence entity or the pure being, or the one, as they call it God, got all sorts of names on that, the unnameable. And we take it to be real. But the word or the description can never be the real. But nobody can negate your beingness right now. You can't say, I am not. Sure, You can mouth the words, but have a look. If that awareness or life wasn't there, how many words can a corpse utter? It can't say anything at all, because the vitality, the life essence, the reality has left it, or is not expressing through it as completely as it was before. It's still there, because now it's breaking down into bacteria, germs and everything like that. It's breaking the body down. Taking the body, which the mind is finished with, can't work without the life in it, taking the body back to where it came from too. And what they point to is that it's all the one essence, the one life, the one intelligence energy. That's what Christ tried to tell you a couple of thousand years ago when he was supposed to be around. I am the way. I am the truth. I am the life. And we've taken the idea that he was talking about himself and set him up as he's up there and we down here, something separate. He was talking about the same I am that I am, that you are. There's not one of you here that can't say I am and doesn't know I am. But how many relate to it? How many believe in it? We've taken on what we've imagined or anticipated or taught, that I am this person. I am this body-mind. I am this separate entity, the individual. And is that keeping us whole and complete? It is not. It's dividing us. Now the seeming one essence has been divided into many, because everyone in this room will say, I am. And if you haven't looked into it, quite a few of you have, and recognise it already. And it's very simple when you do look at it. And know that the I am is not talking about that person, that body-mind. It's talking about that sense of presence. There is no one here who is not present. And I don't mean past or future, I mean exactly in this pre-sense that's happening right now. There is an awareness of being. Can anyone say, I am not? You can say it, you can shout at the housetops, I am not. But then have a look at that. Would I be able to say anything if that life essence, that intelligence energy wasn't there, animating and enlivening this body? Because you don't see a corpse jumping up and saying, I am. Dig me up, it's not too good down there. But the majority of us ignore it. Ignore the fact that that is all there is, which I've looked into many different scriptures from many different so-called religious traditions, or whatever they like to call them, etc. And they've all got different takes of it. And all those different takes, you can't separate it. Just the same as with the word. The way we think we're dividing all the time, as Shakespeare told you 400 years ago, there's nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. Watch your mind and how it functions. See, this is good, that's bad, I like this, I don't like that. It's always vibrating in those opposites. And because we don't question and look at it, the energy of belief goes into it. I am this person, I am this body-mind. When again you look in the scriptures, they tell you it's one self, not a personal self. We take it to be this me, the person, a personal self. Where does person come from? Persona, the mask, an ancient Latin word. A mask is the mental concept, a mental image. So I have an image about myself. And Nisargadatta will tell you there's nothing can trouble you excepting your own imagination. How many of us look at that and see what he's saying there? We're imagining this, imagining that, and imagining everything. Images are mental creations. mental concepts, ideas, images. You look in the mirror and what do you see? A reflection or an image. Now you can't say it's not there. It's there, all right, it seems to be there. But you go up to the mirror and try and pull an image out of the mirror. You can't. Because though it appears to be there and seemingly real, there's nothing there. You can break the mirror trying to dig into the mirror and find it. You won't find it. Purely and simply because it's only appearing to be. It is not its reality. Look at these words and see that the words are not the real either. It's the way they're appearing. But we've learnt words. And you weren't born with any words. Look at that and investigate that. How many words were you born with? Go back and try and remember your birth. If anyone here can remember your birth, it'd be amazing, it'd be wonderful, a great miracle if you could. Nobody was born with any words. You didn't pick up words till you're about 2 and a half, a bit earlier or a bit later. When parents fussing around you, said your little Johnny, or your little Jane, or your little Billy, and that sense of presence is knowing that, in other words, you've picked up, to try and let, that's what they're talking about, the sense of presence is I am. It's not I was, or I will be. It is the amness, the presence awareness that is there, which we're taking to be the body and the mind. So if somebody asks you who you are, you'll say, I am Jane, or I am John, or whatever your name might be. We've ignored what we really are. And if you investigate yourself, you see you're not that at all. You were prior to the words. Because as I say, you didn't have any words when you were born. And you didn't learn any words till you're about 2 and a half. Some of you might have been a bit smarter and learned them a bit earlier. Some of you might be not so smart and learned them a bit later. You can see it in the different periods. But it's all the words you've ever spoken or would like to speak have been picked up along the way. And that's the thing we humans have, which animals and birds, insects don't have. They've never learnt words. But they have sounds which they can identify with. Making noises. Especially if you've got fowls, you see a fowl that throws some wheat down and the rooster will cluck, 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 and they'll all come swarming around. He's made a sound which they all understand. Or an eagle or something can fly overhead and they'll make another sound. And they all fly for cover. They know what he's saying without the word. And that's so the discrimination there can go no further. But with us, with all the words we've learnt, we add more words to it and create a conceptual image. And the fear, the anger, the depression, the guilt, the shame and the unhappiness get worse. They become overwhelming. And some of us get all sorts of psychological things they've got fancy words for, DHD or whatever, SPSTD or some other labels. All words, whatever that means. And we believe it to be so. Oh, look at me, I've got this. And so it goes on. And we wonder why we suffer. And they talk about the suffering as the bondage of self. This self, instead of the absolute self, has become a personal self. And the belief that goes in it makes it real. So this is the conceptual image you're tied up in. A conceptual thought image is the bondage of self. I'm in bondage to that because I believe it, think it's real, never question it. And this is good and that's bad, this is pleasant, that's painful, and poor me. What do the ancients say? They tell you in the Taoists, they're very early traditions, they call it the Great Way. And they say the way that can be spoken about is not the way. And what we're doing here, and everybody else is probably doing, we're speaking about this way. How am I going to get it? What have I got to do to get it? What's it like? Is it this? Is it that? Is it not? We try to grasp it with a concept. And we fail. people like Nisargadatta tell you, he says you try and grasp with the concept and you fail. He says you're bound to fail. Bound to. Can't do anything else. Because it's non-conceptual awareness. So when we wonder it's not happening, we try to think our way to it and grasp with the concept. It won't happen. It doesn't, it never will. But realising that you are still unaware, or still unaware. You're not unaware, you're still aware whether you're conceptualising it or not. You know. That awareness or life essence is still there. And you know that. You're breathing right now, aren't you? Did you know what your next breath was going to be? You're sensing, you're feeling, tasting, touching, smelling. It's all happening naturally, effortlessly and spontaneously. And then some of the ancient texts will say, it is ignorance. We don't like that one, do we? Who, me, ignorant? I'm a smart aleck, I can do this and do that. Ignorant? I'm not ignorant. But they don't mean that we're dull or stupid. What they mean simply is that we are ignoring what is before our very eyes. What is the light or energy that's coming through your eyes. It is the heart beating, the hair and fingernails growing, the food's being digested, the very life and love and warmth that you are, that's expressing through this pattern we call the body-mind. How this pattern comes about? Well, go back to your father and your mother. Have a look and see that pattern you call your father. In that pattern, through the food he's eaten and the breath and things that's going on, the reasoning and capacity of reasoning going on, the breathing, the heart beating, hair and fingernail, the life expressing through that pattern formed a little microscopic particle called a sperm to form, which you can't see with your naked eye. You can't see the sperm, you can see what it appears in, the blob of goo, whatever it is. But that sperm that's in it is suffused with life. Put it under a microscope and see. And life is swimming in that pattern. The same, that life was suffused with intelligence. It knew what to do. And the same with your mother. That animating life essence in your mother enabled in that pattern another little microscopic particle called an egg or an ovum to form, which you can't see unless you put it under a microscope. Now that egg was suffused with intelligence. It knew what to do. That implies that it's suffused with intelligence. And the sperm swam to the ovum. It has the capacity of swimming. That, you can't say it's a dead blob of glue then. If you know very well that it has the capacity of swimming and penetrating the ovum. And those two coming together, that innate intelligence, still knowing what to do, took what was in the two of them coming together and formed the little embryo, the little fetus, which is what you are today. You're sitting here today as these body-mind entities. Can't remember when you were that, coming together. But you see it in others, and in a little bit of investigation, you recognise it and realise for yourself. That's where I began. And I didn't learn any words then, and it wasn't until a couple of years later, parents fussing around me started speaking sounds, which the capacity of reasoning has developed in that little pattern, with the breathing, the heart beating, and the other food being digested, the other things going on. There came a capacity of reasoning, working things out. And the reasoning says, you are this person they're talking about. You are this name. You are this form. You are this body. You are this mind. And from then we don't look any further. We take it to be true. And what do? We go to school and learn more words. More discriminating words. We're discriminating it more and more. until that sense of separation gets well developed there, becomes seemingly real. So real that the energy of belief going into it without question, it causes the feelings, the sensations, and the emotions. And now, instead of being the absolute, the non-dual, one essence, the one intelligence entity that's forming this earth, the planets, the stars, and all the other so-called things that we haven't seen or don't see yet, it's forming, patterning, shaping all these body minds. It's forming, patterning, shaping everything. And it's all the same one. It's not splitting up into two. Just like waves appear on the ocean. The ocean can be still, calm and clear. Wind stirs, it forms waves. And waves look like there's many different things there, many different atoms there. When you investigate, they're only water. They're all water. When we look into all these thoughts, feelings, emotions, taken to be real when you investigate them, you see they're only the word, life, the vibrating intelligence entity of life, expressing as words. And getting the taste of that, the recognising of that. And they call it a cognising emptiness too, if you don't understand that. And say that it's the emptiness that has the capacity of cognising or knowing. And the Buddha made a statement, he said, emptiness is form. What are you and I? What is the room? What's everything in the room and everything outside of it? Everything you can postulate or think of in space is a thing. All appearing in space as these forms, shapes and forms. The shapes and forms, the body mind, I tell you, is Maya. It's illusionary. You know what illusion is? We have illusions all the time in our dreams. They're illusory. They're seemingly real while we're dreaming the dream. When you wake up, where do they go? They disappear. And they can't be grasped again unless you can recall it. Recall it to your memory and give it a reminder of what it was like. Remind yourself, I was this thing. But it's not so. And this personal self that's relating to it, now I've got the concept that this I or me is personal. It is myself. But again, if I look back in some of the ancient texts and say, what do they tell me? They tell me there's only one self, not two. That's one self. It is the God self, or the absolute self, or the Atman self. Different labels they're putting on it. They all meaning the one. And then breaking that Satchitananda down, they will say it's self-shining, ever fresh presence awareness. And then add onto it just this, nothing else. It shines of itself, like the sun. Does the sun need another light to shine? Or does it shine of itself? And again, they look at it, they say in the scriptures, I am the light of the world. Don't hide your life behind a bushel. Don't cover it over. Let your light so shine before men. What is that light? Is the light of being, the light of knowing, and the light of loving to be, all love to be. And it's by that enlightening word in which you know the truth and recognise the truth. So they called it enlightenment. Now, where does this light come into your body? Well, when you look at it closely, how did you come into the body? That body was forming in the womb, and it was getting the light or life through the cord of the mother. Coming through the cord was the life. When the child's born, that cord is cut. And the life that's there, life needs something to shine out of it, can't shine in the darkness, but it's covered over. And where does the light shine out of your body? We've got eyes, haven't we? Part of the body is eyes. And the light of life shines through the eyes. And it opens up and expressing all these other things. Now, recognising that, what are you going to do? You just recognise that the person is not the reality. You say, I am that light. Just like Christ says, I am the light in which the world and everything in it appears. And that word appears is seemingly so, because it's a phenomenal manifestation. And your dictionary definition of phenomenal is that which appears to be. It's only seemingly real. And everything in this room, you put under a microscope, you'll see it in an entirely different light. It is not how it appears. But we've taken it to be so and keep reinforcing it and get bound up in the interpretations and ideas and concepts, which are words we've learnt, and we coin more words when things get too difficult to us. Like we've got this thing called ego now. Before Freud, nobody knew what an ego was, if there was such a thing. And other things we've learnt words of, as I say, all these HTs, STs or PTs, whatever it is. Nobody knew anything about them. Yeah. So we've taken the word and seemingly making it real into all these visions. We're bound in the word. Bondage. Bondage of self. And they say in some of those, relieve me of the bondage of self. They're knowing what it is and telling us what it is and telling us what to do. Relieve yourself of that bondage of self. Question the self. Have a look at the so-called self. Is it the person? Is it me? Am I the self? Am I the body? Am I the mind? Am I this person? Basically, all I can say with absolute certainty is I am. I can say I am not. That's quite easy to say. But what enables you to say it? If that life wasn't expressed through it, how could any word or any concept or any idea be said at all? So when they tell me the word is not the real and the concept is not it, it's impersonable, impersonable and inseparable. Telling us it's one without a second. They're shouting that loudly. One without a second, not two. Do we hear it? We don't. A lot of us go to Ramana Maharishi, an enlightened being in so-called ages. They go to him and do all sorts of practices there and on it. They should listen to what he says. He'll tell you, there's a text called the Raibu Gita. He says, I recommend you read this. And people will read it and say, oh yeah, that's pretty good, and go on. But what's it say in that? It tells you there's no creator, no creation, and no creature. No God, the creator at all, no creation, this manifestation, and no creature. I am a creature if I take myself to be. But there's no. Pointing out how many people take notice of that. Very few. And he's telling you directly, and a lot of others will tell you in the same way, when you look into the scripture what they've written, clearly and pointed out. But we still, yeah, that's a good one, but so and so I've got to find this and do this meditation or practice this mantra. But it's direct and immediate. Non-conceptual, ever-fresh presence awareness. Anyone who is not present right now, no. Anyone who is unaware right now, no, I'm aware. Anyone who's not happy to be, well, I'd rather be here than dead, so you're happier to be. Well, then again, what's that make? 2 and 2, 5, or 2 and 2 is 7? Or 1, I am that. I am that already. And the very idea of a search becomes the problem. So, what happens here? It can happen there or anywhere at all. The search drops away. As they say, start with the fact that I'm already that. It doesn't say start with the fact that I'm this individual, I'm this person, and I will become this or that if I do this or that. It doesn't. It says make that the base. Start with the fact I'm already that. And then all I have to do is all these concepts come up and say you're not this or you're not that or something. Drop them. You drop the concepts. Try and move away from that. And you don't realise the great mantra they talk about is I am that. See it all around you all the time. It's there, quite simple and effortlessly. That is a chair, that is the carpet, that's the wall light, that's the room the light's in, that's the sky. Everything is that. We know it already, which we discriminate with the word. We've got floor, carpet, tile, that, all different words we've learnt when we learn this language. And instead of seeing it as that one intelligence energy that's vibrating, patterning and shaping into different patterns of form, we take the different pattern forms to be the reality and not miss out on the thatness. So when it's investigated and looked at, you see the simplicity and the immediacy of it. And that's the sad thing. Been taught it out down through the ages, and it's very few that have understood it compared to the population. But there's always been somebody there. And some of them had a look at it and made use of it, garbled it, and put all sorts of rules and regulations on it. If you don't do this, you become this, and blah, blah, blah. You're a sinner, you go to the other place down there. It'll be a bit warmer than what it is up here today. And all these sort of things. We get, and we believe it. The energy belief comes in and takes over. And look at your dictionary and the definition of belief. An unquestioned acceptance of something in the absence of reason. Reason it out. Look into it. Test it. But we don't. We think, oh yeah, that's so and so. I might finish up in hell if I'm not a good boy, or I don't want to get to heaven. And all sorts of concepts. Question it and see. An unquestioned acceptance of something in the absence of reason. Acceptance of an alleged fact. Not the fact itself, but alleged fact. Something that people have told us, we say, well, that could be real. And we don't test it any further. Acceptance of an alleged fact without positive knowledge or proof. Because when you put it to that test and it's false, you'll never get any positive knowledge or proof about it. Because it's a fiction. The false cannot stand up to investigation. So that's the rough outline of what it's all about. And a lot of you here looked into it and know it, or you wouldn't be coming here if you didn't, because simple reason you come here, because you've tested out a lot of the other things and haven't got the full recognition of the others. So we go somewhere else then. And some of you might get something here, and some of you might say that's a lot of crap and never come back. And I've had people do that over the 40 years I've been talking about this. Some have come back 30 years later, some have never come back at all. Some have latched onto it and still here. And some of them are out talking about it themselves. So it is there, if it's like to be investigated and looked into. And there is nobody that's going to do it for you. Years ago I was going to a teacher, helping. He used to go around patting people on the head with a peacock feather to awaken the energy in them. And a hell of a lot of people believe that too. We laugh and think it's funny, but that's a fact. People believe, and I did for a while. but it doesn't have to be so. Recognise it. So, letting it go, get into it. Cat will take over. And you can all have a say, isn't it? Because each and every one of you are that.
Okay, I'll give you the ears.
Thank you.
This is the part, Julia, where you can help. Good. Okay. So we don't actually have, apart from hi and welcome and hi everyone and love to everyone, we don't really have any questions from our online community. So the mic goes to you guys. Anyone would like to start? Share something? Ask question? Or just even reiterate or reverberate whatever you heard or resonated what you heard Bob saying? Because it is mainly about the pointers that do create the resonation. Those who don't, you can just discard and ignore. Don't bother with them. Don't bother asking, clarifying. It's no point. It's one is enough. It is really 100 pointers that he gave us are really saying the same thing in 100 ways. So you don't have to understand all 100 ways. Understand one. And this one which you do, which does resonate, if you say it out loud, we will have it repeated. And if you really resonate, it will be said again. Lucky. Lovely.
Thanks. Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kat. I think the thing that really has been resonating lately is it's like so simple, but the word is not the thing. And a few days ago, someone sent me a song that was very popular when I was 18, 19, and I started getting like some nostalgia, like feeling slightly sad for this carefree time where you just hang out with friends and drink beers and joke around. And then I would just ask myself what I try and always ask myself, which is like, who's feeling this nostalgia? And as soon as I asked that question, the nostalgia kind of just dropped away, and I just saw this for literally just a pattern of energy. And so often, in here we hear people saying, oh, what if you take away the word fear, or you take away the word sad? And this just happened of itself by investigating who's there to feel this. And all of a sudden it was literally just a sensation. There was no there was no label about it. It wasn't nostalgia. It was just a sensation. And the sensation wasn't bad or good. It just was. And if anything, it was maybe interesting. I think it was just like looking at this sensation in my body, and there was no judgment or need for it to go away. And then, it slowly just passed, and something else took my attention. But it was probably the most, I think, just a very real experiencing in that moment of what we call emotion when we're kind of identified with it. Something that we call emotion is just actually sensation. And that was just what it was. It was nothing special. It just was a sensation in the body, and then it passed. Without the word and without labeling it something, it's just what is, and it's kind of beautiful.
Yeah, and the fact that it passes, you're not clinging to it for days or weeks like we were doing.
Yeah, there was no need for it to go, and it just kind of faded when it faded. Thanks.
Thank you.
How beautiful. I actually got the comment that they are questions. They just didn't show on my phone, so I restarted the phone, and we do have question from Grant. Hi Bob and Kat, thank you again for opening your home and sharing. Bit by bit the truth is seeping in, and when I look Julia, can you operate the camera because I can't do that.
You're fine, actually.
No, it wasn't. I see on the screen here.
Sorry.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. You say start with the fact I am already that and look to see what is in the way and I am. What's your advice for someone who is beginning to see it? I'm tired of the search and truthfully seeing glimpses of the truth makes me more impatient. Is there anything to help other than constantly reorienting to the now, this awareness of life?
Start with the fact that you are it instead of going into the glimpses. Every time you recognise it, the stronger it becomes.
Yeah, the idea I get it and I lost it. I recognized it and now it is not there. It is always there. It's really just deepening in the relaxation, the knowing. Once the knowing in the glimpse is realization that, oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, whatever they say, absolutely. If there is no narrative, I'm still existing. I'm still here. So the glimpse suddenly becomes sort of a background on which everything appears. The obscuration appears on that background. So the way is not to actually try, because yes, that would be tiring. That would be really impatience, I understand too. The more trying, the more hard work, the further away we stray from that natural state, which is a state of relaxed awareness. So it really is about further relaxing into what's already there when this program is switched off, this narrative or is ignored, is pushed aside. And we have, I don't know, anyone else would like to add to it? Taz, did you want to add? No? Oh, sorry. Gilbert, did you want to add something to it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, this habit that appears to be with everyone is referring all the experiencing and the impressions to this self-centre. So it's imperative that we investigate and see that actually there's no self in this body. The body is empty. The mind is clear and empty. And it's only a habit of referring to this image of self that perpetuates this story. And it's an illusion. It's common to everyone, apparently, but I can't know what it's like. I can't feel your pain. I can't, I can empathise or whatever. I can't see through your eyes. I can't hear through your ears. But the real question is, who is hearing through these ears? Who is seeing through these eyes? So it's like reverse engineering is a common thing now with designing things. You have an idea and you reverse engineer. So investigate and go back into that space. If you close your eyes and you look in that space and the mind is quiet, you'll see that it's empty. And you can actually see that there's absolutely nothing in there. And yet this habit of believing that there's a self in here that's separate from the greater consciousness or whatever, the universe, it's actually an illusion. I remember years ago, Bob, you used to have I think you still got it, a crystal used to hang up there, and in the afternoon the rainbows would go on to the little rainbows on the wall, and you said, look at these rainbows, and now go and have a look inside the crystal. And of course you go and look into the crystal, there's nothing in there, there's no light coming out, it's actually empty. And it's a metaphor for the investigation. Have a look back into what's the source of this suffering. It's just ideas. And what substance does an idea have? How can I beat myself up with words like, I'm no good, I'm a bad person? This is nonsense. And yet, it's very common. So nobody can do it for us. nobody, the guru, the so-called guru, is, as Nisargadatta said, the external guru is a signpost, just a pointer. And sometimes those signposts are pointing in the wrong direction. But if you're lucky, you find a guru who's pointing in the right direction, which is back to the source of what I am. And the more we talk about it, the more we seem to move away from it. But it depends on where am I seeing from? Where is this voice coming from? If it's coming from that egotistic stuff, it's always got to have me in there. You should follow me and do what I say, and whatever. But really, it's compassion, and it's uncontrived, spontaneous speaking. The ideas are spontaneously appearing without an agenda. So the compassion is that, like Bob's been sitting here for 40 years or something, selflessly sharing it used to be 3 times a week for
4.
meetings. 4.
Now, yeah.
It's 4 now, it used to be 3.
Mm-hmm.
And not really asking for anything back. It's like the sun shines on everyone. It doesn't say, okay, you owe me now. It's a self-shining presence awareness. So it's always dubious to talk about it, but if the intention is good, no harm done.
That's beautiful. Beautiful. I have another question here from the online community. Julia, can you put that camera the right way?
You're fine. Okay. Here you go.
Oh, thank you. So this is from Mona. What would facilitate recognition of the oneness, especially when we go through life experiences triggering emotion? Then I don't feel I am that complete and wish for the moment to recognize being the one. Yeah, that's a good question, Mona. You may actually ask yourself, how do you know that you are feeling one? There may be a subtle expectation. I'm not feeling one right now, because feeling one would have particular flavoring to it. And what flavoring is that? Did you ever feel that flavor, or are you just waiting to feel it in the future? Because about the clarity, there is no feeling in it. Presence doesn't feel like anything. It is a certainty of existence. You can't say you don't exist, but you can't actually say how does it feel to be, or how does it feel to even be conscious. You are conscious, you know you are conscious, but how does it actually feel? Does it feel warm, or does it feel pleasant? There is no feeling component to it. But at the same time, you can't deny it. It is something that is there underlying all feelings, good feelings and bad feelings and other feelings. So recognition of oneness is not a sensation. Recognition of oneness is the realization that whatever stands in the way is false. The idea that I am here and the world is outside of me is a thought, and that thought is inaccurate. Because even if I'm thinking I'm the body, is really the body outside environment. It exchanges the air constantly, it exchanges the matter constantly, it exchanges temperature constantly. It's completely connected, it's completely one. But okay, I'm not the body. When I think that maybe I'm my thoughts or feelings and I'm separated, how are the feelings separated? Come up with the feeling that is unrelated to what's happening. There is always a relation between the feeling or thought is a response to the environment, whether it is an inner or outer. So the idea of separation is a thought. And realizing that that thought is inaccurate. That thought, like Gilbert says, it doesn't have any substance. It's a nonsense. It doesn't need to be believed. Now there is an experiencing. There is no feeling of oneness, but there is realization that the seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling is happening. And where is the separation if there is no thought? Experiencing is happening, seeing is happening. Unless the thought comes, this is me, a seer, and this is the world out there, well, there is just seeing. And the body and all the other bodies arise in that space of field of seeing, which is singular. That's the oneness, seeing, being, knowing, experiencing. In direct recognition, there is only that one functioning happening. Existence or Satchitananda, being, knowing, and having a preference for being. I mean, that's loving to be. Don't look for feeling. Feelings come and go. Feelings are experiences. Feelings of bliss, feelings of pleasure, feelings of displeasure, they come and go. They're not relevant. I mean, they content of the dream. Realizing the dream to be a dream and just taking away the importance from it. Putting the importance, putting the heart on the reality. Reality is the singular experiencing, the oneness, the Satchitananda, the awareness of presence, the stillness of being present, of being here. But that can only be done with your heart. It can't be done with the mind, because for the mind, the awareness of presence, what is it? Nothing, right? Void. Nihilistic. Nonsense. Nothing. There's nothing there. I mean, come on. Mind is a device which focuses on objects and symbols. And as we just said, this is singularity. It doesn't have any object. If there is any objectification going on, we are straying away. So mind has to be put at rest. There is no mind, nothing that can be distinguished about it. That's just an obstruction, that's the veil. So just put your heart into that miracle of existence, to just see that existence undeniably here. Wow, amazing. That's amazing, isn't it? It could have been nothing. For the heart is not nothing. For the mind, existence is nothing graspable. So there is no interest in it. Mind is interested in noise, in objects, images, in Maya, in illusion. That is what it is made for, and it's good at it. There's nothing wrong in attending to the dream. But that attending is spontaneous functioning. It doesn't have to be narrated as me attending. You can just see unfolding, the miraculousness of spontaneous unfolding, of spontaneous functioning happening within that singularity without creating an illusion of me doing anything. That's where the life becomes really, really amazing. Before that, it's just a struggle of chasing pleasure, avoiding pain, it's suffering. Anyone would like to? Oh, I have Amarnath adding to it. I am that is not words or thought. See as it is without naming, and as timeless, causeless, spaceless, impersonal. And Amarnath says, thanks Gilbert, seer and listener of dream and waking are same, aren't just illusions. Voice without name, form, thought, and word. Thanks. And Grant says, thank you all. And Bradley, you get what you want. When you want, what you get. Lovely. Saying yes to what is the end of expectation, desire, and suffering. How brilliantly said. Beautiful. Innate well-being is not arrived at. It is prior to searching. Isn't it nice? And Amarnath says, Mona is just thought. It can't be one or many. Thinker is absent in thought. One and many are both imagination, thoughts only. And Vivek says, it is existence but no experience, no feeling of separation or oneness. Experience, feelings are traps. And Amarnath says, what's everything? Saying I am nothing, how funny is mind? It is a thing at all. And Mona says, thank you. So anyone would like to elaborate on any of it, or have anything other coming up for you? Oh, Tony, right. Please pass it. Yeah.
Just a couple of comments on attention being singular instead of broader. And one was in space when Bob says you can't get away from it. It just reminded me of camping before internet. So when you're just out there in a sort of, not on a campsite, on a farm or something, and the day is very local, it's just what's happening that afternoon, you're just pottering around. There's just less and less of the other stuff. And so it becomes closer to not being able to get away from it. And so you're there with it. And the other one was in time. Like one time I had a splitting headache during a satsang. And so like one moment there would be like the pain and pain reaction, pain labelling. And then the next moment there would be a awareness would be at letting go. What's that like if it's let go of? The next moment would be like quite happy. And the next moment would be splitting headache. And the next moment would be like letting go. And then it'd be quite happy. And this would just go on every split second for about half an hour or something. But yeah, it was just interesting that the attention stayed right there. And that was done in time, I guess. And the other one was more in space. Yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Anyone else would like to share? Oh, Saroja, please.
Oh.
Oh, was it Anita? Oh, sorry, Anita. I didn't see whose hand it was. I'm sorry. You go. Oh, Ross. Oh, go on, Laura.
I was just thinking about some colloquial Australian sayings that seem to ring true, and although they're not flattering, the ones that come to mind are you're an airhead and the lights are on but no one's home.
Yep.
And your elevator doesn't go to the top floor. And I can absolutely say that's a tick, tick and a tick.
Beautiful. That's the clarity expressing.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
This is very much experiential, as Lockie was pointing out with his observation. And it seems to me that the things that strike us the deepest are things we have to go back and revisit and gradually construct what actually happened. It's a bit like alien technology. And they tell me in UFO circles, they keep going back to this alien technology, and every 10 years, and they see if our technology is catching up and they've got an idea of what it's about. Well, one moment, about 30 years ago, everything dropped away. And when I say everything, what I've come to understand now is that it was everything I believed about which had to do with me. And it all just dropped away instantly. I could never understand it. It was just a great relief. What I do feel I understand now is that the belief is like a bubble, and when it's dropped, the whole thing just, it's like a bubble, instantly disappears. So that bondage is really very, very, very much like a bubble. Just when one's relaxed and there's no thought, you can just, something drops and you look back, it's gone, and it was all just a dream.
Never was there in the first place.
Yeah. And when you think of metaphor of a bubble, it's actually quite sweet. I like it because what's inside? Nothing. There have never ever been, like Gilbert said, there's never been anything in it. It's just an appearance. Do you want to elaborate on that, Gilbert?
Yeah, it's like, you know, the investigation is supposed to be essential, and who's making the investigation. But if you just recognise that impressions, you look around, the impressions are registering somewhere, and the concept is that they're registering here with me, the self, or whatever. I'm seeing this. But maybe it's not true. Maybe the impressions are registering exactly where they are. You know, you see the cat. The impression of the cat is registering exactly where the cat is. But this hypnosis of it's registering in here and I'm seeing it is really the idea of separation, because there's actually no distance between anything in the manifestation. It's a dynamic display of awareness or consciousness, and it's one. It's no separation. You are that. So this idea that I'm a separate entity or a separate person is like a hypnosis, and like a bubble, it can burst. And for a child, a beautiful bubble, when it bursts, it cries because it's gone. Or a rainbow, you try and get to the rainbow, it disappears. And if you're a child, it's disappointing because there's a pot of gold there that you can't get to. But just to quietly look at where are these impressions registering. There's no separation. So the activity of knowing, which is a movement of energy, a movement of consciousness, and everything is that, there's no separation. So everything, the activity of knowing, the movement of that, is the same movement that we see in the world. We see a dog run across the field. It's the same movement of the same thing, which is not a thing. So the whole belief in separation collapses, but it's not an event in time or space. And it's like, I was interviewed recently, and it's all about, what's your journey and what's your story, and it's a fallacy, but that's how people relate. They want to hear a story, and how did you get it, and what's it like, and the whole thing is just a story that's projected onto somebody. You're enlightened. What's it like, Bob? Tell me what it's like to be enlightened. And because we learn to speak through imitation. We listen to the parents talking, and we imitate the sounds. Birds and animals do the same thing, maybe, who knows. So we have this faculty of imitating, but that's not our true nature. Our true nature is already complete. It doesn't need anything added to it or taken away from it. So that's what's shining. That intelligence energy is shining out of everyone. And in some it seems to be clouded down by so-called depression or suffering. But it's just an illusion. And no cloud is stuck to the sky, and no cloud obscures the sun, because the sun is, it's millions of miles away. And the sun actually, as Bob points out, the sun creates the clouds. It evaporates the water from the ocean and as a vapour, and it forms into clouds. And if you get a telescope and have a look at clouds, it's very interesting. It's not a static thing. It's a move. There's vapours dissolving into empty space. There's vapours coming out of space. It's a big cotton ball that's constantly changing. There's no static thing anywhere in the universe, but the belief in the self-centre is apparently the static point that causes all this suffering, and it's not real. Investigate. Who's got the problem? I remember I was complaining to Bob about something once, years ago, And he said, well, if you perceive a problem, then you've got a problem. So, what?
Yeah, we have a comment here from Amana, and he says, no thought is also form of thought, consciousness identifying with formless ego past. And he says, thanks Gilbert, both mental and physical space are artificial creations only. 2022 year quantum mechanics Nobel Prize was given, what we see and think is false. Yeah, anyone would like to elaborate or share something?
Did anybody understand that?
Well, Amana doesn't use punctuation. That makes it a little bit harder.
I can't answer.
Full stop.
Yeah, there's no full stops here. But Vivek clarifies it further. He says no separate entity. The body is made up of hairs, heart, lungs, many other types of cells, atoms, etc. Punctuation's there. Is any entity I regulating it? It's automatically taken care by the absolute Brahman. There we go. Who's next? Oh, lovely. Who is it?
Yeah.
Mitra. Oh, wonderful. Cool.
Bob said before that there is nothing, with my words, I'm paraphrasing. So basically, there is no one here, and it's only an intelligent that, in us, but there is no self. And then, so there is only an intelligent that taking all different forms. And then today you said, and before you also previously, I've heard that before as well, that you said there is no creator, creation, and creatures.
Yes.
So when when a newborn baby comes to life, in a way it's a new form. Right? So intelligent take that form. So in that way,
the fact that there is no form and that they are forms, that's the...
No, I want to understand, so there is no creation,
yes.
There is no creator
yes.
also.
Mm-hmm.
Because, well, that intelligent in a way is creating a new form, isn't it?
Yes, see, it's not intelligent, it's intelligence.
Ah,
okay,
yes,
Bob, you
intelligence.
Want to elaborate on that?
Well, are the forms real?
Well, no.
When you're dreaming at night and you give birth to a baby or 5 babies, and you wake up in the morning and they're all gone, were they real? The forms?
No.
Intense. Yes, so the forms are not real. Then transient. They show up and disappear.
Okay, in that respect I understand. So there is no creation.
No. No.
There is no creation, there is then no creator.
No.
No.
No creature. We are creatures. What appears to have been created has forms, body, mind. It's no thing.
Nothing ever happened.
Yeah.
And also, if you try to listen again with the heart and you look for the resonation, rather than, because see, when the mind grabs, I want to grasp it, how come intelligence creates a form, so there is a creator creating a creature, and how come at the same time there is no creation, no creature? See the mental activity trying to reconcile the opposites and think, oh shit, this is too hard, you know, like, oh my god, I'm not that stupid, there must be a way to grasp it. There is not. There is not. There is no way to understand non-duality with the instrument of division. This is the instrument, the language, the whole language center is based in symbols represented by labels, you know, like you have a symbol for creator. Now it may be a god, the father with long hair and a long beard, or it may be a nature with its, or it may be any other energy. It is always the word represent a meaning. That's how language is constructed. It is called symbolic language. So the whole base how language functions is by creating separate symbols. There is no symbol for oneness. Because oneness in relation to what? Oneness is incomprehensible, same as zero is incomprehensible and eternity is incomprehensible. Spacelessness, incomprehensible. Birthlessness, incomprehensible. Those things don't have symbols. That's why some people, Bob calls it intelligence energy, because it's hard to picture. How can you picture that? Some call it that. How can you picture that? You can't picture it. You can't make a symbol, mental representation.
It's just a pure intelligence.
You could call it pure intelligence, so long as you don't create a picture on, oh, there is intelligence in opposition to non-intelligence. Because this is a representation of oneness. We're talking about the base, which is indivisible. And mind divides it. We even had quite a few arguments with people who would come here or attack us over the emails that, oh, you get it all wrong because you think there is existence. Or you think there is a Brahman. There is something. There is one. No. It's just a word. It's just a label.
So even one doesn't exist.
Even one is already too much said. Because if you have one, where is this one appearing? In something other than one. That's already too much said. Even to say there is existence, which you can't deny in the dream, but this is too much to say. What is existence? There is no such thing as existence. You can't make it to an object. So any way you try to grasp it with the mind and, you know, grasping, comprehending, putting into a form, it is gonna fail. But if you listen with the core of your being, you were born a baby. Now we're using time. Time doesn't exist. But as a pointer, it's a good illustration. You were born in the natural state. That natural state is innate to every one of us. You ask Bob's famous question, what's wrong with right now if I don't think? And you back into that state of absolute pure Satchidananda, being consciousness, stillness. Nothing's wrong, unless the thought comes and starts comparing, complaining, and making problems. So it is innate natural state. If you listen with the core of your being and just kind of look for, but the moment mind tries to objectify it, no, just relax. It can't be grasped. But it is a beautiful question, and thank you for that question, because see, those questions, even though they completely from the other world, they dualistic questions. How come there is no creature, and how come there is a creature? How come there is no creator? You know, like pointers contradict each other, and necessarily so. They always will, because they use words. No pointer is true. No thought is true. Even the most brilliant way of putting it is still just a pointer. It's not, you know, like the word water is not the water.
Where are you right now?
Just open field of listening.
Yeah, it seems like, I mean...
You think you are a body, and you think
No,
that
it
body is in space. Now try and cut the little bit of space that appears in out and separate it.
Yeah, it seems like nothingness looking through my eyes.
Space is no thing.
That's beautiful. Nothingness looking through her eyes, she says. Beautiful.
But I can see it that way. I wouldn't say I always see it that way, but I can see it that way.
Yeah, you see, it's always only description, and as description it won't be perfect. But it's really nice. It's really close. Beautiful.
Nothingness
Say what
looking
what's
through.
behind description.
Yeah.
Mm.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's beautiful. And we have another. We have another comment here.
Sorry.
Vivek says, Dean, you are required in these meetings for better camera and microphone control.
Oh,
Tired.
you're sad.
No, Julia just need a little bit of a practice, but we do want Dean to get better, absolutely. And thank you for acknowledging Dean, because yes, he is invaluable, and we absolutely love him here. But Julia has helped many, many times, and thank you for doing it. And Amarnath says, life has both form and formless ego. In deep sleep, we do not have form, yet we think I was there after waking. Comma. It is mixing. Thank you, Amarnath. And full stop here. Just opposite to this, is there no waker in deep sleep too? Full stop. Who is not sleeping in deep sleep too? Two full stops. Not waking in waking state, not dreaming in dream. Eyes are eyeless. I is eyeless. And big smile. Big smile to you, Amanda. Adrian, wonderful.
Yeah, no, I'm really big on like silence and stillness and like sitting as that space, and it's very clear that there appears to be a physical, like if we want to talk like a physical body, but it's very, very clear that there's an energetic body or an energetic field permeating through that physical form, like it, and it's energy flowing through the body, moving through it, and it carries that knowing within itself, and it's there prior to any thought coming out and sort of tacking onto it and trying to run something, and it continues to get brighter the more all the permutations of that me are seeing through from coming to above, and in particular, like there was one the other week saying a thought doesn't carry actually any knowledge with it. Like a thought doesn't actually know. It's actually dumb, deaf, blind. But there's an assumption that the knowledge is contained as the thought. And so it's fronting up, I think, and continuing to be here. And the more the truth is heard from that body, the energy that knows it, but bursts a bit like Ross was saying and brightens more and more. So that's been the experience here. So thank you.
Putting
that's
that
just partly
another way. Before all beginnings, after all endings, I am.
Mm-hmm. Tony, you want
I was just thinking before what Mitra was saying, and also partly what Adrian said about, if you got the microscope and you went down to the edge of the body, you would just find a lot of space and a few bits and pieces, and if the equipment would never exist, and the ability to make anything of it would never exist to ever find an actual boundary of anything. So in a way, this what we usually use the word one to kind of describe. If you took one right away and you just had, no boundaries, yeah.
And just further to what Bob said, like if you really look at it from a fact-finding point and looking at all the functions in the body and all the intelligence running absolutely everything, that's just profoundly amazing, and there's no one there doing that. That's all just functioning. That is the life also creating the thoughts, and it's all coming out of that space. That's running everything. There's no separation. Yeah.
I'd just like to add to that actually the experience of living comes from the human senses. So the apparent living is perceived by the apparent senses, which are very limited in the human. Being able to see within the full spectrum of seeing, being able to hear within the full spectrum of hearing. It's a very small, limited band, really, when we're talking about an apparent existence. And in fact, there is a, that appears like this, but it's as soon as you go into a deeper state or deepen, or even within science, if you look at a deeper spectrum, it doesn't exist. It's an apparition. It's like a fallacy. But, there's something with some part of the brain, the human brain, which attaches to it and identifies I with it. But actually, in fact, for all of those where the mind has dropped, there's direct experiencing which bypasses the mind. And actually, there is even experiencing outside of all of those limited ranges. So, and that is through direct experiencing without the mind, or somehow without the mind. Yeah. So so remember what you're thinking. When a creature is born or a baby is born, that is an apparent birth. It's an apparent birth. It's an apparent reality. If that word has some strength in it, it's within the limited spectrum of what this thing is. It's like the bandwidth is very small. Yeah. So in fact, the actual thing behind all of that is boundless. There are no boundaries on it. And that is experienced through, so first of all, the mind can, the questioning, the self-inquiry can discover, just like you can go and look at science and see that the eyes, there are creatures on the earth who see way beyond our spectrum. They hear way beyond our spectrum. We're very limited as this body, this apparent body. But in fact, when you start to investigate that with the mind, you have a very strong mind, you can investigate this with your strong mind. You'll find that, man, what is reality? If in fact it is boundless. But we're only experiencing this very limited band, in this thing,
If there is time, can I ask a very quick question? Another one? No.
Yes. No, you can ask question, and then the man in the corner, or was it
yeah.
Sorry.
So you.
Oh, well, I just wanted to say, this intelligence, has it got any will, anything, like goodness for the all, or I don't know, to get to know itself, or it just randomly does whatever it wants, or...
Look at electricity. Does electricity have goodness in it to give you the light and the warmth and other stuff?
No.
No, good. Yeah.
That's
Any
how it is,
projection
really?
that you put on it will be anthropomorphizing it.
Also, it has no want, will,
qualities.
no qualities, and not goodness, no good wishes, nothing. That's just very clear.
Do you want a question?
No attributes, without attributes. But it can't be grasped by the mind. That you will not find it by thinking.
Did you want to?
Later.
No? Later. Well, we have 5 minutes to go, so that's the time.
Yeah? Aren't you going to say about God?
No, it's been done. It's been said.
Many times.
Yeah, the intellect is limited, so the intelligence is unlimited, and you are that. But take the planet, for instance. The planet has a north pole and a south pole, and it rotates. That's intelligence. If it didn't have a pole, you can't have a north pole without a south pole. So, but if it didn't have these north poles and this rotation, it would be chaotic. The planet would be rolling in a chaotic manner, and maybe life as we know it wouldn't be as it is. So that this intelligence energy has a kind of an order, and you can say it's good. And in the Bible it says God made the world in 6 days, and on the 7th day he sat back on the balcony with a beer and said, "Yeah, it's all good."
That would be time.
Yeah. So, and the wonder of nature, the nature is so wondrous. All of the amazing birds and flowers and the fields and the trees. How many species of trees are there? And they're all they all have their uniqueness and the differences. Like you take one tree and you take a leaf off that tree, it looks very similar to all the other thousands of leaves on the same tree. But if you get a few leaves and compare them, they're all different. We are all unique, and yet we are the one essence. And it's only the belief in being separate and the stories that go with that cause the psychological suffering, which is completely and utterly unnecessary. And I don't know anyone that I've ever met that would argue in favour of psychological suffering, that it's something good. That's enough.
I like the metaphor of trees, or at least that. If you have a tree, it'll have thousands, maybe millions of leaves on it. And every leaf is going to express differently, a little bit different. If you look at it under a microscope, you'll see all the leaves are different, but it's the same treeing or leaving or whatever. It's all the same thing that it's coming out of. So I don't know. I just like that metaphor because it's a nice way to understand that it's just this one intelligence that's patterning is everything. It's one tree. You're that.
I have a couple of comments here from Bob. Did you want to add something?
No, nothing in particular.
I'll add one more thing. Come back tomorrow if you want to join us on Zoom.
Okay, I have a couple of comments from online participants. Amarnath says, knowledge and thought are from the past. Oh yeah, that I think I've read that one. Appearance and disappearance are both sides of coin happening in every moment. I never appear or disappear. JB says, thank you, Bob. Thank you, Kat. I am thankful for this wonderful meetings and everyone involved. And Amarnath says, thank you too. So I guess we are coming to an end. I just wanted to thank everyone as well and highlight, I really liked, Adrian, what you actually brought back. So much assumption is that you can get that knowledge on or wisdom in a form of thought, which is actually blind, deaf and dumb. Have anyone seen the thought with eyes or ears or even a brain? Thought is just a code, it's a piece of noise or program or software. It doesn't have any capacity for any understanding. It only translates the innate knowing. And also, Mitra, what you were saying, looking for the qualities of God, which we say the God is loving and the God is just, and all those beautiful idealistic metaphors that we use. If you look for them, you'll find them. If you are moved to do that, you'll find them. You'll find love and justice and all that. But the truth is even more uncompromising and unconditional. It expresses as every quality, but in essence it doesn't have any. Just like electricity doesn't have quality, but it can become warmth if you put the toaster or hairdryer. It becomes a light if you put the lamp or torch. It can become a noise or sound if you turn the radio, the computer or something. So all those qualities are prolific, they're expressions. There is aliveness and vibrancy and radiance to it. But it inherently doesn't have that human sort of bias, good or bad, pleasant, painful. See how goodness in human perception is always associated to some sort of pleasure. Love is pleasant, isn't it? So love is good. Hate is unpleasant, so hate is not good. This bias is very dualistic, and the essence as the potentiality, a field of potentiality, is not even express, it's only a potential for expression. It's not even a thing, it's not even an emptiness, it's a potential for the expression as space and the content. It can't have qualities, it's not biased, it's not dualistic, there is no duality in it, there is no love, hate, and that's the beauty of it. Again, it doesn't have ears and deaf, blind and dumb like the thought. It doesn't have brain to comprehend and translate and express. It uses the patterns and grows itself embodies to experience and express qualities. So they are all qualities, either zero or eternity, either both beyond the mind, none and everything. When it's nothing, this is wisdom. When it's everything, this is love, the way Nisargadatta put it. But it's beyond the description. But it's pleasant to look at it, isn't it? Because it kind of brings you home.
Investigation is one of the paths.
What do you say?
Investigation is one of the paths. Investigations with the mind to actually make the mind drop. It's one of the paths, jnani.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you everyone. We have Zoom 3 times a week, tomorrow and a couple of other days. All the information on sailorbob.adamson.com. Yes, in the morning.